Hi, this is Jen Rubin, and this is Jen Rubin's Green Room. I'm so glad you are back. Remember, if you like these shows, to tell your friends. They can click right there to subscribe. What a day of contrasts. As we are sitting here on Tuesday, we had a bit of a split screen, or split reality, in essence. On one hand, President Biden went to the Capitol and he gave an impassioned speech on anti-Semitism and the Holocaust. And what he was saying is, no matter what form it takes, no matter who is making the comments, no matter who is engaged in the activity, we do not tolerate anti-Semitism. We do not tolerate hate. We don't tolerate violence. We're a country of laws. We're a country of inclusion. And whatever argument you have, whatever point you want to make, you make it peacefully, you make it respectfully, and you do not harass, threaten, intimidate American Jews. It was a robust statement. It was high-minded. It could not have been more timely during a period of time where we've just come through campus after campus being occupied, not by people who simply want the Palestinian people to be protected, but people who are calling the October 7 terrorists martyrs, people who are echoing the Hamas party line. And I think Biden gave the speech he needed to. It was emotional. It was reassuring for those of us who thought we were losing our minds. We're not. And he said as much. So that was one side of the screen. On the other side of the screen, and unfortunately, you only hear people talking about it because it's not really on the screen. Donald Trump's New York trial is not being televised. But nevertheless, you could have coverage of the latest from the New York business records falsification case. And who was on the stand today but Stormy Daniels? And I have to say, for those of you who thought this is just a minor case, or who cares about this case, or we don't need this case, or why are we having this case, I hope your mind has been changed over the weeks, because especially today, but throughout this process, we have gotten an unmistakable picture of Donald Trump as a sleazy, lying, really bullying, unpleasant character, and someone entirely unworthy, forget about the presidency, holding any office, holding any position of responsibility. And when Stormy Daniels gets up there to testify as to the, I hate to even say affair, but the encounter she had with Donald Trump, you get a sense of just how grimy his life is. And why is this relevant? Why is this important? Because he knows it's grimy. He knows it's disgusting. And so when it came to the presidential election, and when he feared, after the Access Hollywood tape was surfaced, that more stories would come out from Stormy Daniels, from others, he panicked. He was desperate to shut up these women. And I have to say, had he just given them stacks of cash, or had he given them a check directly, recorded it accurately, reported them to the FEC as part of his campaign expenses, he wouldn't be sitting in a courtroom. But because he concealed it, because he lied, because he mischaracterized what those payments are, he arguably committed a crime in the state of New York. And that's what he's on trial for. But the reason that he could not bring himself to level with the American people goes back to a fundamental split in Donald Trump's brain between the image he projects as tough, as morally superior, as the defender of America, as the only guy standing between you and chaos, the downfall of Western civilization, and the reality, which is a steamy, sleazy operator who is so cheap and so dishonest that after he won the election, he was considering not paying these people. That's right. Once the election was won and he no longer had to worry about another woman stepping forward, he asked his cronies, do we really have to pay these women? Yes, you have to pay these women. So that's what the election is about. But what we're also seeing throughout is that Donald Trump cannot physically, mentally, emotionally control himself. That's why he's been cited for contempt 10 times. That's why he's probably going to get cited at some point again. And if we believe Justice Merchan, which we should, he may get to see the inside of a cell before the trial is out. Now, I wouldn't get your hopes up. He's not going to Rikers Island, and he's probably not going there for more than a day, maybe even just be a few hours. But that's how incapable he is of submitting to the rules. He refuses to recognize the power of the courts, the power of the law, because no one tells Donald Trump what to do. But in fact, they do. And that's why he's incurring the wrath of the judge. That's why he is forcing his lawyer to make ridiculous arguments, why he's forcing his lawyers to cross-examine witnesses ad nauseum when it serves no good purpose for him. He is, I think, having a mental, emotional explosion in his brain. And so should we be surprised that he's now gotten the moniker of Sleepy Don or Snorcolion? No. And that's because, number one, he's not in good health, mentally, physically, emotionally, but also because he cannot stand being there. He cannot face reality. And the reality is this trial is not going well for him. The witnesses are overperforming. Hope Hicks was a devastating, believable witness who ties Donald Trump to the hush money, who makes it clear that it was for the purpose of making sure he got elected president of the United States. We've seen witness after witness who works for Donald Trump. Some of them still work for Donald Trump, attesting to the scheme, attesting to the falsification of records. And for those people who doubted that Alvin Bragg had a strong case, I hope they're reconsidering, because we have seen an extremely strong case. It's solid on the law, it's solid on the facts. Now, the big question mark that remains is what kind of witness is Michael Cohen going to be? What the prosecutors have done is set up a web, a forest of evidence that is going to corroborate most of what Michael Cohen will testify to. So that if you don't believe Michael Cohen on a certain point, there's lots of other evidence. But Michael Cohen is still an important witness. He's got to testify that Donald Trump was intimately involved, excuse the expression intimately, with the decision to phony up payments to make it look like he was getting billed for legal services, when in fact this was nothing but a disguised payment to shut up women. That's why Michael Cohen is important. Now, his testimony may be relatively brief if the prosecutor is smart. Get him in, get him out. And the prosecution is well aware that Donald Trump is going to insist on his lawyers beating up this guy, keeping him on the stand, harassing him, going through all of his failures, which we all know. He did plead guilty. He has served time in jail. He has lied. But I think what we're getting from the Donald Trump saga is, what do you expect? This guy did not hang out with Pulitzer Prize winners and humanitarians. He hung out with other sleazy people, because those are the kind of people who go and work for Donald Trump. So in essence, part of what we are learning is that Donald Trump, who of course demands loyalty from everyone, has to surround himself with a bunch of lowlife. And if you don't like Michael Cohen, if you think he's sleazy, if you think these women have exploited the situation, whatever you think, that's who Donald Trump hangs with. And is that really the person we want to be president of the United States? For some of these people, yes, because they don't believe anything. They don't believe the witnesses. They don't believe the documents. They don't believe the news. They're living in dreamland because it is so important for them to remember that he is their end-all and be-all. He is the only source of truth. He is what's standing between them and the downfall of civilization. So they're unreachable. But I gotta think that there are millions of Americans who still care, who still don't want this sleazy guy in the White House, and who understand how emotionally, intellectually unfit he really is. And for that reason, this trial is really, really important. And I have to say, the media is doing a halfway good job of covering it. Not every article, not every outlet, but they really are explaining the strength of the case, and they're explaining the evidence that we have seen. So try to follow if you like, but at least follow the great legal commentators who are out there. We are blessed with a phalanx of lawyers who communicate intelligently in plain language and can make this perfectly understandable. And encourage your friends, even those who are feigning ignorance, to catch a little bit of the coverage, because it's an education. And it's an education about what Donald Trump fears most of all, and that is the rule of law. There's a certain beauty to the system that Donald Trump has to sit there, that he's going to get treated, by and large, maybe with a few allowances, like any criminal defendant, and he's going to have to wait for 12 men and women to decide whether he is convicted or not. That's powerful, and that's something to be optimistic about. So remember, we are in for the fight of our lives. Democracy is on the line. The rule of law is on the line. But you can make it happen. You can vote. You can get your friends and relations to vote. You can donate time. You can donate money. Because the fate of democracy rests not only with those 12 people in a courtroom, but with each of you. So thank you for joining us. See you next time. Bye-bye.